The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
And we're back. And actually, up until maybe 5 seconds ago, y'all were going to be stuck with just me, but it looks like S2's popping into the studio here as well. Testing. Can you hear me, S2?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good to see you. Well, good to not see you.
Damn gophers.
Yeah, I hear you. So tonight, the main topic is going to be a combination of pardons for everybody and Senate confirmation stuff, especially around Pete Hegseth. And I was kind of discouraged as to when, they folded really quickly on Matt Gaetz for AG. And I was thinking to myself, oh, crap, we're not going to go down this road again, are we? And I'm kind of encouraged that there's going to be some hard lines drawn in the sand here. I mean, what are your thoughts on Pete Hegseth? I think he's going to get in, but I think it's going to be a fight.
I'm with you. There's going to be a fight largely among Democrats, obviously. I think he might have a couple of moderates that could jump in there and come across the aisle, but I don't think it's very likely. I just, it's like Kash Patel. They're telling everybody now, Kash will be confirmed. There's no doubt.
Yeah, well, I think worst case scenario, that Trump won't be afraid to use recess appointments. Not the best solution, but not a bad solution either for times like this.
Well, I kind of look at this, the recess appointments as kind of like an audition, if you will. You get to have somebody, you get to appoint somebody during a recess to come in, and if he's good at doing the job and he starts doing good, and maybe that's the one thing that will start to bring people over the line and say, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and legitimately confirm him.
That's good. I hadn't considered that perspective. That's a great perspective. So, all right, let's get started here. We'll bring up the first video, and we're starting with Pete Hegseth.
I'm proud of what I've done. I'm not going to back down from them one bit. I will answer all of these questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group. None of you, not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee. And I answer to my Lord and Savior and my wife and my family. I'm proud to be here. And as long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight, I'm going to be standing right here in this fight, fighting to bring our Pentagon back to what it needs to be.
What have your Senator?
And I'm proud of what I fought for.
So before we discuss this at length, I want to bring this up here. So the vote to confirm Lloyd Austin was 95-2. So there were a bunch of, Republicans, obviously, a ton of them that, cast a yay vote in favor of Lloyd Austin. Lloyd Austin's been a complete disaster, and I don't know how anybody could argue otherwise. So one of the things that I've got queued up for us tonight, I personally think that Joni Ernst were witnessing like an epic self-destruction of her political career. What do you think of these clowns that voted for Lloyd Austin but are, digging in against Pete Hegseth, who, in my opinion, is a far better candidate?
Well, they're all animals in the same cage. I mean, they were just a bunch of jackals. So it really comes as no surprise. I mean, let's keep in mind Lloyd Austin actually went AWOL for a period of time and didn't tell anybody, including the president.
Right. Good point. Really, I'd forgotten about that. Great point. Yeah, for cancer treatment, nobody even knew that he had cancer. So, Yeah, didn't we have a period of something like an entire weekend and plus a day on each end where he was just MIA, nobody knew where he was, and there was nobody in charge of the DOD essentially.
Yeah, it was roughly 5 to 7 days.
Yeah, that seems to me that's pretty disrespectful to your country. You know, when you hold a
Well,
position like that.
it's not even that. It's irresponsible to not have anybody in charge of your position while you're gone. I mean, you and I both know this from our professional lives, is that when you go on vacation or whatever you do, you have somebody there to back up your position.
Yeah.
That's why we cross train in the military.
Yeah, it's not complicated, that's for sure. Even, you know, multiple small businesses do that just because they have limited headcount. So let's bring up the first video here with Senator Jody on here. And this is something that really bothers me, probably bothers me more than most people, but this transgender stuff in the military just rubs me the wrong way completely. Everybody I've talked to has basically said, look, you can't deploy these people, so you can't really leverage that. And I didn't really, until you and Mike mentioned the fact that you got a bunch of people have joined because they figure they're going to get free surgeries for their transition. I hadn't considered that figure that somebody threw out a couple weeks ago said there's 15,000 of them in the service. At first blush, I was like, yeah, bullshit. There's no way. But then when you all mentioned they could be there to get the free, surgical stuff, that makes sense. But this bat here, this establishment shill, has got a lot of nerve to vote for Lloyd Austin, praise transgenderism, and go against somebody like Pete Hegseth. Clearly she's bought and paid for, but let's listen to her 1-minute speech here.
So the example of transgender people serving in our military, we have transgender people serving in our military. They will bleed red just as the rest of us. But I also take a stance that we should not be integrating transgender people into certain situations where it does make, if you have a female barracks and you have a transgender woman who has not transitioned, we shouldn't make the rest of the unit uncomfortable about that setting. There are certain accommodations we can make for that transgender individual. But if they bring value to our unit, if they have specialties that we can use, especially if we want to maintain an all volunteer force, we want to bring that talent into our services. And I know that's controversial, but again, I'm looking at what's good for our nation. And believe me, when we're facing a recruiting challenge right now, if people are physically willing and able to serve our country, we want them to do so.
So I would argue as to that they're not in a position to serve. These are mentally ill people. And I don't see them as able to serve and fulfill a role. It's a distraction. And I mean, we've all seen the videos, right? There was one video, I can't even remember where it was shot, where it was kind of like golly, I'm trying to think of what you would call the day. It was like a day of games that they were playing amongst different units. And you had a bunch of tenderfoots running around doing this dance about their unit and everything. I looked at it, shook my head, and I thought, holy crap. At 55 years old, there wasn't a single person on that team that could hold a candle to me, you, Mike, any of us. And that's what we're going to have defend our country. I mean, I don't know. I think it's bad all the way around, period. I'm in favor of MEI, merit, excellence, and intelligence. I'm not in favor of DEI.
Agreed.
Do you have any additional thoughts on this, or should we just move on?
Well, I think we've said this many times, is that these people, as you state, they have a mental illness. Not to mention the fact that if they were to have the military pay for their full transition, the research and statistics show that most of these people actually end up regretting it, and a good number of them actually commit suicide. So you have that piece of it. You're already mentally challenged to begin with, and then you want to do something physically that you can't reverse, and then turn around and you're even more mentally ill and you're going to have to take drugs for all of that. And imagine somebody like that in a combat setting where bullets are being shot at you and bombs are going off around you. And what is your mental status going to be there? I mean, that's already, that situation alone is enough to drive anybody insane in the first place. And you want to put somebody that's already insane into that and further exacerbate their condition? Yeah, no. This knothead doesn't seem to understand the reason why they're facing a recruiting crisis is because of people like her.
Well, exactly. Very well said, by the way. So our friend Tyler White, he does a really good job of recruiting, and he's served in multiple different capacities, TJAC survival. But he said the exact same thing, that there's all kinds of young men and women who refuse to join because they just can't get behind a military that embraces this transgender bullshit. And my youngest son's serving at Fort Benning right now, and he's deploying to South Korea on January the 10th. And he's told me straight up that he has not met a single common man. So I'm not talking, these DEI woke leaders, but has not met a single enlisted man. And he's been there for almost 6 years now, in Benning, that agrees with the transgender stuff at all. It's very divisive. So good point pointing out that it's the actual cause of the problem. So therefore, recruiting more of them is somehow the solution. That seems to me like it'd just continue to have a compounded negative effect to it. So let me pull up the next one here on our friend Senator Jody. Looks like there's going to be a primary challenge to Joni Ernst in Iowa for 2026. So I don't know if you caught this or not, but a couple days ago, Elon was in DC. So he was talking to various departments with regards to, their budgets. Somehow, some way, they've come out with this number that says that only 6% of federal government officials work full-time in their brick and mortar offices now. And so a lot of his discussions were on, Department of Government efficiency, but there was a complete turnaround by a number of Republican senators who had previously said that they would not vote to confirm Pete Hegseth. And while Elon didn't say this, several people came out and said, look, Elon went to those clowns and said, President Trump has a mandate, a very strong mandate. He got the most electoral college votes. He got the most of the popular vote, blah, blah, blah. And here's the deal. If you don't vote to confirm his nomination, starting with Pete Hegseth, I'm going to give your competitor $100 million to wipe you out in the next election.
I heard that. I was laughing.
We discussed it with Doc Pete, and we're all kind of the same mindset. And I'm sure you are as well. The Citizens United 2010 the Supreme Court ruling, Citizens United, declared that corporations are people and that money is free speech. Looks like we've dropped S2. I'm sure he'll be back. He's been having some network issues. But that particular Citizens United ruling is complete bullshit. Corporations are not people per the Constitution, and money is certainly not free speech. None of us want to see our political system and processes polluted by big money. I was just bemoaning Citizens United there, S2. So essentially what I was saying is that none of us want to see, big money steamroll our political processes. But the fact of the matter is we've had no answer to George and Alex Soros. And I feel that Elon is the answer to that. Is it the best situation? No, it'd be better to have neither one of them in their checkbooks involved. But Soros isn't going to go away. So thank God we've got Elon.
Well, when you're up against a challenge like that, where you've got deep pockets that are willing to support bad people in our government, I say fight fire with fire.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think we really have any other choice. So here's, Senator Ernst essentially reprimanding her constituents for opposing the bipartisan border bill. So let's be perfectly clear. There was no bipartisan border bill. there was a bill that had built-in amnesty, had very high numbers of illegals allowed to cross each day, something like several thousand a day, which would have codified in law that we would accept millions upon millions more of these, so-called migrants. I call them invaders from third world shitholes. And they knew that Donald Trump would come out against it. And then they tried to say, well, Donald Trump came out against it because he wants this talking point for his election. No, that's not it at all. We're sick and tired of seeing our country flooded by people from third world shitholes. And we're now seeing a massive change, whether it be UK, Canada, especially here, New Zealand, Australia, where citizens are saying enough's enough. We don't want any more. Like France, they did a poll this week, and I don't remember the exact results, but it was something like 90 some odd percent said zero immigration. Whether it's legal, illegal, zero immigration, we've got to reclaim our country. And I think we're going to be feeling the consequences of this for a long time. Now, I personally think, S2, and I want to hear your thoughts, that we will have the ability to do the mass deportations. We will have the ability to reclaim our country to a certain extent. But the other countries that I just mentioned, I don't think that they have the wherewithal and the resources to make that happen. And I think they're screwed in the long run.
I think when, here the old saying is that every country watches America,
Mm-hmm.
and they watch what we do. And they've been saying for the last 4 years, when is America going to stand up? And I think what you're going to see is a mass linking of arms together between countries and taking on attitudes, getting rid of liberalism, getting rid of progressivism, getting rid of this whole green scam thing. Once we start to take action, we set the example. We're the example of freedom that they look for. And if we don't do it, then they're not going to see any motivation to do it themselves. So I think if this really goes off, I think once the people start seeing it, they're going to start stepping up and start doing their thing as well.
Well, I don't disagree with that. And I'm hopeful as well that that's the way things go. So this is a 5-minute video. We're not going to watch the full 5-minute video. For those of you who are new to the podcast, if you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up for a free membership. We publish the brief for every episode. It's got all the links. They're typically 10, 15, 16 pages long. So when we play a video like this and we just play a portion of it, if you have that brief, you can go ahead, you can find the link. It's all labeled and go watch it on your own time. And if you don't have time to watch the whole live episode, it's like a curated daily newspaper that doesn't cost you anything. But we'll listen to the beginning of this one.
Did include changes to the asylum law, which would allow us to immediately deport people that don't meet a higher standard for asylum in the United States.
That's complete bullshit. We had the laws on the books until Joe Biden at John Brennan's, urging, wiped out 94 border protections that Donald Trump put in place and did it on the first day. Like, this is a prime example. When I say the Republicans and Democrats are two different sides of the same coin, she's one of the scumbags that falls into that paradigm.
Immediately deport them. Immediately. And you know what we heard? We heard, this package is bad. Don't pass it. Don't pass it. So all of the calls I got at my office said, do not pass a border bill. We do not need a border bill. The president can do everything. He has the authority. Don't you dare pass a border bill. That's what I heard.
You know what? And that's not the way this went down. The way it went down is, don't you dare pass a bill that codifies all of the crap that this administration is doing. It basically would have stripped Trump of the power to say, no, we're not letting thousands of these people across our border every day without having consensus in the House and the Senate to overturn that law. So it's completely disingenuous there. I want to address
well, and who decides what that higher bar of asylum is? Who decides what that is? Were those rules in that border bill? I seriously doubt they were. That bill was all about giving money to Ukraine. That's what it was about.
It was about giving money to the Ukraine, and it was about codifying, letting.
And besides that, if you didn't let them in the first place, you wouldn't have to deport them.
This is true. I want to quickly address this S2 from our friend Katie. You know, I honestly don't care what people do in their private lives as long as it doesn't hurt others and it doesn't include kids. If I don't like you, it's because you're a crappy person. So listen, this is the stance that we've had for many years. When I say we, I'm talking Americans who are patriotic, conservative, and libertarians for the most part, classical libertarians, lowercase L, not capital L. This strategy for us. I've been saying the same thing for many years. I know many people have been saying the same thing for many years. But when we say, I don't care what you do as long as you don't force it on me and you don't hurt anybody in the process, that strategy has not kept these lunatics at bay. We have to go on the offense. We've got to stop being, so conciliatory. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. There will be no reconciliation. There will be no unity. The left, well, the uniparty, the globalists, whatever you want to say, have gone too far. People like me, I'm not reconciling with anybody who thinks there's 300 bullshit genders. I'm not reconciling with people who think if you can cut your junk off, you can become the other sex. Not going to happen. I'm not going to reconcile with people who say, oh, well, like climate change is driving these migrants and they're coming here because they need to survive. No, they don't. And it's our country. End of story. So I don't know if you want to add to that or not before we move on.
Yeah, I will actually. I've been saying for the last 30 years, tolerance is going to get you what we have now. We have been entirely too tolerant, and they have come right out and said they're coming after the kids. They have to come after the kids because it's the only way they can perpetuate their unicorn world. That's the only way they can do it. And they've so far at this point, they've been somewhat successful at doing that because now we've got a bunch of college kids out there that can't read and write, can't think for themselves, and buy into all of this freaking lunacy.
Yeah.
It's got to stop. Stop tolerating it.
Yep. Well said. Good choice of words there, by the way. So here's a post from Savannah Hernandez. Y'all might recognize her from, InfoWars in the past, but this is with regards to Senator Joni Ernst and her saying that she's not going to confirm support for Pete Hegseth. So she voted to confirm Lloyd Austin, who's also, by the way, responsible for the Afghanistan withdrawal and $82+ billion worth of our equipment left there, plus the thing that goes in your shoulder, plus the alphabet crap. She supports transgenders in the military. The congressional record shows she votes with Democrats 38% of the time. She wants us to keep sending more and more money to Ukraine and calls Zelensky an inspirational leader. I'm going to tell you right now, this time next year, Zelensky will not be the leader of Ukraine. You can bank on that.
Joni Ernst won't be a senator either.
That's right. And she had an affair with one of her servicemen while deployed, according to her divorce papers. I have serious problems with people who have a lack of loyalty like that. So bottom line is that she's going to get primaried in 2026. Regardless of what she does going forward, I think she's left a really bad taste in most Americans' mouths. So I don't know if you want to add to that or not. But
I think what we're going to see is some severe capitulation going on her part, because if she doesn't see the writing on the wall and she doesn't turn around and fly right, that's exactly it. Her political career is over. Period. And personally, I think it should be anyways, regardless of what she does.
Yeah, I totally agree. So here's a number for you. The number of Democrats who voted against Biden's 21 cabinet nominees, 0. So these rhinos who will vote against Donald Trump's, nominees, it doesn't matter. Republicans, Democrats, they're all shitbags controlled by, the NWO globalist cabal, whatever you want to call them. And honestly, it wouldn't hurt my feelings at all to see the Republican Party go away completely. But if it doesn't go away completely, we need to take control of it from the, the MAGA side, for lack of a better term. But anyway, I'll move on from there. We'll talk a little bit more corruption here. So the overarching theme of this week has been corruption, all levels of government, out of control. And Kyle Becker nails this one. If you took 28 days to count 210,000 votes, you cheated. If you took more than 12 hours to count votes, you cheated. And so this has got us down to a 1-seat advantage in the House of Representatives. They stole a bunch of them. This isn't the only one. And nobody on the Republican side stood up to this. I mean, my thoughts are, S2, and you tell me what you think, is that Trump needs to launch an investigation into this as soon as he takes office and ferret out the cheating that happened here, and either call a new by-election or throw the results out and give it to the person who had the most votes as of election night, because that's really the only thing that should count anyway. I mean, I don't know if he'll do it, but I'd like to see him do it. What do you think?
I still think 2020 needs to be fixed. Period.
I could not agree more. And I think that's why we're seeing these trial balloons floated that Biden's going to give everybody blanket immunity on this, that, and the other thing.
It won't fly. It won't fly.
Yeah, it won't hold up. Todd Callender made a really good point earlier this week. He said, when you have an immunity deal that's given to somebody, and let's just say for argument's sake, it covers 10 different things, and one of the 10 is unconstitutional or illegal, the entire agreement goes out the window. It's not like we're just going to strike this. The whole thing has to be thrown out. So,
well, not only that, you can't give somebody a pardon for something that hasn't been proven yet, something they haven't been convicted of. That's just like along the same lines as thought crime. You can't do that.
Yeah. Well, you can if you know that that particular person has committed a bunch of crimes that you don't really want to admit to that they committed those crimes, but you want to protect them from it, right? So anyway, let's move on to the next corrupt thing here. Is I truly despise this guy, Jamie Raskin. He's such a piece of crap. So we're in the fight of our lives against incoming administration. I don't recall how long this video is, but I'm going to play a portion of it and then we'll discuss this clown.
If Jamie Raskin's talking, it's entirely too long.
Top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, this would be a truly extraordinary step to blanket pardon people who haven't even committed crimes, haven't been accused of crimes, haven't been convicted of any crimes, to shield them potentially from Trump. Is this the right move?
Well, it's certainly a sign of our extraordinary times where you have incoming president of the United States who's making threats of prosecution and jail towards private citizens. And so it's obviously something that should be.
So I would add, they shouldn't have broken the law. Otherwise, that wouldn't, those threats would not be made. And it's like you said, S2, we got to fix some stuff here. There has to be accountability.
Looked at. I mean, members of Congress, of course, are in a somewhat different position because we are covered by the speech and debate clause, which insulates us not only from criminal prosecution for doing our legislative duties, but also from civil attack, and also not just at the federal level, but the state level. And of course, a presidential pardon applies just criminally, and it applies only against federal offenses. So I think this applies more to people like maybe John Kelly or Mark Milley, people, these are, former Republicans, former Trump staffers who he has threatened in very vehement ways in different contexts. Those people, I really think, it makes sense for those people to be considered for whatever kind of protection can be offered to them.
So I asked Doc Pete, amongst other people this week, what their thoughts were as far as Mark Milley's concerned. I asked General Valley this week, and I basically, the question I asked them was, is there any, foundation in law? Is there any chance that they could call Milley back and court-martial him like he's, professed he's scared of? And everybody said the exact same thing. Absolutely. No ifs, ands, or buts. It can be done. And Milley, the phone calls to China alone should be reason enough for that guy to be court-martialed. So for people who are watching that maybe are not aware of this, but January 2021, Mark Milley called the Chinese leadership, Xi Jinping, as well as other military leaders, and said, don't worry about Donald Trump. Don't worry about the U.S. military. I have taken control. He is no longer in control of our military, even though he was still the sitting president and commander in chief. That right there, that's treasonous. That's
and he also said that if anything was going to happen, I'll call you and tell you ahead of time.
Thank you for reminding me. Yes, absolutely. Excellent point there. So here's another one that's in the same category as Jamie Raskin, and that's Chris Murphy from Connecticut. Dan Goldman would be another one. Of course, the list goes on and on. They're going after Elon now. So I mentioned this week, right? So you have Tesla. You have one shareholder who has 9 measly shares, launched civil litigation against Elon, saying that he shouldn't be compensated at the level that was agreed upon. The board of directors unanimously is in support of Elon being paid the $56 billion that he's owed. 72% of the shareholders have voted in favor of Elon getting the $56 billion compensation package. And this activist judge is holding it up. So why is the activist judge holding it up? Well, let's go right back to the beginning of tonight's episode. It's because Elon is the answer to George and Alex Soros, and they're trying to kneecap him and take him out so that he can't fund people who run against somebody, like Jody Ernst, Joni, I got the two mixed up there for a second. But either way, this is it right here. I'm just going to play a little bit of this S2, and then we'll talk about it.
Joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, who represents Connecticut. Really good to have you. I got a question about this DOGE department. And first off, Jared Moskowitz of Florida has joined in. And Rahm Emanuel was on with Ezra Klein talking about what Democrats need to do going forward. And he said, if the Republicans are proposing something to shake up the status quo, the Democrats should get on board and offer their own opinions, offer their own ideas, their own ways to do it, get them in the soft underbelly, as Rahm Emanuel says. Is this something that you would be interested in getting involved with? You're a guy who thinks the Democrats should be running against the status quo as well.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that this has anything to do with breaking up the status quo. You've put a billionaire who basically has made his fortune off of government subsidies in charge of deciding how the government should spend its money. This sounds like either a con job in which Elon Musk comes out of this with his programs protected and perhaps his competitors' programs targeted, or just a TV show. I mean, I've been part of these things in the past with Donald Trump. After the Parkland shooting, I got dragged over to the White House for a television program in which Donald Trump pretended he cared about guns. He didn't do anything. This may be the same thing, that he's trying to put on a show that he cares about cutting government, but actually we're going to end up with the same thing that happened in his first term.
Anyway, do you want? Yeah, I know it's truly laughable.
I think it's a great idea. I think they should give Elon his own show, and they should call it "You're Fired."
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I think I heard that somewhere else once before. So this is today's news. Speaking of Mark Milley, and for people who don't know this, Mark Milley went to school with Richard Levine, who is the mentally ill guy who thinks he's a woman, who is now the head of the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And they're two bum buddies from way back in the day. And I'm not surprised at that at all. So this essentially, it's the body's not really anything more than what the headline is. So Biden's attorney is basically studying a preemptive pardon for him. And it's all over the news. Here's a headline from the New York Post as well. Your thoughts on this S2? I mean,
Well, if they could pull all of those other service people back in by a recall, which is in their contracts that they signed, they can certainly call him back in. Just because you're retired doesn't mean they can't call you back in. You're not that old, and you need to answer for the crimes that you've committed.
So, S2, educate me here. Does that apply to everybody who served in the military, or just the brass?
It's not just the brass. I'm sure if it's everybody. I didn't look that far into it, but I know that within certain branches and certain elements that they can recall you back if you're a critical component. Well, I'd say General Mark Milley was in a pretty important position, so they could use that clause to call him back in.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. All right. So let me see. The next one that we have up here is Clyburn. Now, this one's interesting as to. So look whose name is very first on this. I've urged Biden's staff to pardon Trump, Cheney, Smith, Fauci, blah, 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 blah. We can't spend all of our time pursuing Trump. I'm not going to play the video. If you want to watch the video, download the brief, watch it. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. Nobody wants to listen to me and S2 talk all night. But I think this is kind of like, if Biden were to do this, basically saying to Trump, well, there you go. We did a solid for you and we pardoned you as well. So, back off pardoning, or back off going after our people. We've pardoned them. It's all over. We pardoned you too. We're not bad people. And let's just call it a day. What do you think of this?
I don't really have any thoughts on this guy. I know I don't like him every time I've listened to the guy speak, but.
Well, what I meant more so than that was this preemptive pardon for Trump coming from Biden. I mean, I think it's a bullshit ploy, but I also think it could cause problems with the sheeple in the mainstream who believe the mainstream media, thinking that, see, Trump's just part of the same old, thing. He's just part of the club.
Well, you have to understand the way the strategies work here, okay? And I'll use an example of the Nation of Islam, for instance.
Right.
Their strategy is, okay, you've got the nonviolent guys and then you've got the violent guys. Okay. So if the nonviolent guys do something bad, or if the violent guys do something bad, then the nonviolent guys, it's okay for them to admonish the nonviolent guy or the violent guys, because it's still in furtherance of what their agenda is. And if the nonviolent guys do something and the violent guys don't do something, then it's okay for them to support each other because they're still furthering their agenda along. This is the way it works. Okay. And that's exactly the ploy that he's using here, is to say, I'm going to lump Donald Trump into it because now I'm the bad guy supporting the good guy, so it makes me look good.
Yeah. But what a convoluted mess, huh?
It's really not that hard to understand if you read the strategy book.
It's not. I meant overall, like, what a convoluted mess the whole friggin' thing is. But all right, so here's a post that Kash Patel sent a legal notice to Mike Pence's advisor to immediately retract the defamatory statements she's been making or face legal action. Let's keep in mind that Kash Patel is a very accomplished attorney. So this video is a minute and a half long. We'll probably play the whole thing.
I worked with Kash in the White House. I was Vice President Mike Pence's counterterrorism advisor. So I had to coordinate with Kash a lot. Kash Patel is a delusional liar. Let me just be very clear about that. And he would lie about intelligence. He would lie about making things up on operations. I think Mark Esper has talked about that as well, where he put the lives of Navy SEALs at risk in an operation when it came to Nigeria. These are things that actually were happening in real time when he was in the role of CT coordinator in the White House. And I know this because at some point I realized that I needed to double check Kash's work to make sure that I wasn't misinforming Mike Pence by relying on his word. So I had to go around him. And this is a guy who openly has contempt for people in national security, for people especially at DOJ and the FBI. He made open comments like this. And so I think, there is a little bit of fear here from people where they know that someone like Kash Patel is fully capable of just doing partisan investigations, whatever it takes. It will be insane if he becomes the director of the FBI. And I fear for like the law enforcement personnel there who are going to have to navigate this. And quite honestly, when I look at Kash Patel in combination with what is Pam Bondi going to do if she gets in as AG, is that top cover for him? I mean, these are all the things that concern me when I see all of these names being proposed for all of these different positions.
All right, enough of that bullshit. So, John Brennan, we've been discussing him quite a bit recently because he's truly the bridge between, our crooked government and the powers that be, the Committee of 300, the people with the money, Rockefellers, et cetera, et cetera. And Brennan's position has always been that you accuse the other side of what you're doing yourself. And of course, Obama answers to Brennan. And that's exactly what this is. So they're all, clutching their pearls that Kash Patel, will use the FBI to go against, go after Trump's enemies and stuff. We've witnessed how many years now? Is it? It's got to be
10 years. 10 years.
10 years of lawfare and witch hunts and nonstop lies about Donald Trump. All the intelligence agencies, all the law enforcement agencies, FBI on down the line. And these people are screwed in the head, man. You know what? You should not have opened Pandora's box, because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And people like myself, I don't have a problem with Kash Patel weaponizing the FBI against you clowns, because you've done it for years. And the difference is that when they weaponized the FBI against Trump, it was strictly political. There was no basis to anything that they did whatsoever. Whereas going back the other way, these guys have broken the law. They deserve to pay for it.
Yeah, I didn't see no joy on Joy's face.
Yeah. Anyway, I accidentally skipped one of our items here, so I got to get this up right now. Back to the pardons. Disgraced Lieutenant Michael Byrd is demanding a pardon before Biden leaves office. So not only is he guilty of murdering Ashley Babbitt, but he had all kinds of things in his background, and I bet you have the details as to, but he was reprimanded multiple times in law enforcement. He's had all kinds of personal issues. This guy's a piece of shit, and he's so far skated on killing Ashley Babbitt. Anybody who's watched the videos, she posed absolutely zero threat to him. What he did was murder, period. No other way to say it. Your thoughts on this? Like, if they give him a pardon and it actually stands up, that's bullshit, man.
Well, I think they already done an investigation and said that he wasn't guilty. So what's the point of giving somebody that's been already deemed not guilty a pardon? What's the point of that?
Well, because they know they whitewashed it, right?
Yeah.
It was just
but what I'm saying is, from a legal standpoint, that would be like double jeopardy in reverse. Why would you give somebody a pardon if he's supposedly innocent in the first place? Once again, unconstitutional pardons. And this whole pardon business is really a dangerous thing, because what I think what the Democrats don't understand is that what they do to you can also be done to them.
Yeah.
That's what they haven't understood throughout this whole process. And they never thought that they were going to be in danger of losing the power that they usurped. And now that they're in the danger of losing that power, or they've already lost that power, it just hasn't, the light switch just hasn't been flipped yet.
right.
And that's what they're afraid of, because they never counted on the American people stepping up to make sure that Donald Trump would be reelected again.
Yeah, great point. They expected the American public to witness Donald Trump's brains being blown out on July 13th, in Butler, PA. And because we'd gone years where there were no live broadcasts of anything Trump had done, because they were all trying to, suppress him, sort of thing. But all the media just happened to turn up on that day, So anyway,
it's like magic.
Yeah, magic indeed, right? So I got a quick message from CCW Safe that I got to play, and we will be right back.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
So every time we play a message from our sponsors, S2, we don't monetize any SDN episodes, by the way. So there's no advertisements that are played by YouTube, Rumble, so on and so forth. But every time one of those ads ends, it's like a knee-jerk reaction on my part. I want to say, and we're back. So I guess it's become a strong habit.
I got something I'd like to say here to the audience real quick. Guys, this Quaalude Midnight guy, he has a right to his opinion, and he's not saying anything that deserves to get him zapped. So let him speak. When he starts getting belligerent, if he does, then we'll take a look at zapping him. But we believe in free speech here.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that we really police is when people make threats or it's spam, that kind of crap. But anyway, moving on to the next one. Here's a story. Maybe you've heard of it, S2, but I would be willing to bet the vast majority of people have not heard this story because it doesn't meet the narrative. 5 and 6-year-old boys in stable condition after being shot by transgender at Christian school yesterday. Kindergartners are critical but stable after California school shooting. So you can see right there, New York Times. So if I pull up the article, boom, it gets hit by the paywall there. So I can't show all of the details, but other than this account behind a paywall and a couple other ones that I found that were behind a paywall, I didn't pull it up when I went to the New York Times. There
I think Keith Graves actually did a piece on this.
Yeah, he's the only one. I'm talking mainstream media. I didn't see anything that wasn't protected behind a paywall on this particular subject. And, the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, that a lot of these shootings, active shooter situations, have specifically been transgender people over the past few years that are, they're mentally unbalanced and they want to, hit society for shunning them, not accepting them, so on and so forth. And I mean, even the stuff with Audrey, what was her last name? The one in
Audrey Hale.
That's it. Yeah. It took a darn near an act of Congress to get the account there. And here we go. Our good friend, Gerald Phillips, former law enforcement. Actually with these guys here with the hat I've got on, U.S. Arms Companies built a couple guns for me. Kick-ass guns. Keith covered it very well. So appreciate you sharing that with us, Gerald, very much. All right. So the next one we've got up here, and this is a good position that I can get behind. So this is Glenn Beck's platform, of course, Blaze Media. Trump must do to American Marxism what Reagan did to Soviet Marxism. And if we don't stomp this shit out, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. So I guess it's behind a paywall and I can't show all of it either, but that's okay. So this is a topic you're much closer to than I am, S2. Educate us here.
On the Marxism piece? Well,
the
honestly,
Antifa, Marxism, etc.
Well, honestly, Marxism is just a tool. It's a means to an end for a subversive group of people that are trying to realize their agenda in real life. And I try not to bring this out in the open quite as much, because then they turn around and they say I'm a xenophobe. But I'm here to tell you right now, one of the biggest threats we have in this country is the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
They are the ones that are perpetuating all of this. They are the ones that are driving this. The Muslim Brotherhood. John Brennan was very close contact. I believe he's also a Muslim. And they have been pushing this agenda to basically take over the Christian world since World War II. He got in bed. I forget what the guy's name was, but he was also a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. I think he was one of the founders of the Muslim Brotherhood. In fact, in World War II, they actually teamed up with Hitler and started to infiltrate the United States back in World War II. So this is really what the threat is, and this is where Marxism is being used as a tool to subvert our values.
Well said. Well said. All right. So moving on to the next one here. This kind of cracks me up. Fetterman, Trump should be pardoned. What happened to John Fetterman? Dude, so has he been replaced by a conservative body double, or when he had the stroke, did God somehow take him from being a woke progressive and turned it into pretty much a conservative?
Dude, I don't know, man, but I'll tell you what, he's been, ever since then, he's been talking some sense. It's like, where did this guy come from? It's almost as if he was a plant. You know, he was planted to act like a lunatic in the beginning, and now he's showing up to be on the right side. Actually, I think what he probably ought to do is he ought to come over to the Republican side before it's too late.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he could barely string a sentence together that made a lick of sense when he was showing up to, the Senate, it looking like a disheveled, beach bum in shorts and flip flops and all that stuff. And again, he couldn't string a few words together. And now all of a sudden, he was a
self-proclaimed member of Antifa.
Right. And so I love the line right above this video. Fetterman went on to bash Democrats for being gleeful over Trump's conviction. I have not watched this video. We'll watch maybe 30 seconds, a minute if it's worthwhile.
Senator John Fetterman has built his political career on calling it like he sees it. And we have a lot to talk to him about right now. So please welcome back Senator John Fetterman.
Okay, I have the first question.
You have the first question.
So, Senator, President Biden's decision to pardon his son Hunter is facing bipartisan backlash. Even the Democrats are all over it. But what do you think? Is this much ado about nothing? It is his son, after all, and people do have sympathy for that. But a lot of people are angry with him about it. What do you say?
Oh, well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated, but I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump that was political as well too. Now it's that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases, and we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized.
All right, so I take back the nice things I just said about John Fetterman, because I think he just shit the bed there. These are not the same things. The laptop had evidence of many hundreds of different crimes that Hunter Biden committed, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He committed it. Everything with regards to Donald Trump was manufactured bullshit. Every last bit of it. They are not the same thing, and I would argue that nobody's changing my mind on that. Put it that way. Your thoughts?
Nope, right there with you.
Okay, cool beans. All right, so here's one of the polls I was referring to. So 48% of French people want zero immigration, including zero legal migrants. So there's a lot going on around the world right now. Western Europe, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and of course here, where people are fed up. This is our country, our culture, and this invasion doesn't work. Even Justin Trudeau has had to back off of it and promise to suspend their mass immigration policy for at least the next 3 years. I don't know that they have the resources and the wherewithal to save their country like we do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Worst case scenario, they become the 51st state. That didn't go over well with Canadians this week, but truth is what the truth is. Anything you'd like to add on that particular topic?
I've said it before. I think once we get our stuff straightened out here, or we begin to get our stuff straightened out here, first order of business is to seal up that border, and we defend that border, and we need to go through a period of isolationism to make sure we get all of our ducks in a row, not just part of them.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Well said. So check this out. Mexico makes record fentanyl haul. And what's the date on this story today? Oh, would you look at that? It's today. So all of a sudden, when Trump starts threatening tariffs, and if you don't do the right thing at our border, and you don't do the right thing with regards to flooding our country with fentanyl, which is killing at least 100,000 people per year, you know what? We're going to basically destroy your economy by putting such high tariffs on it. And then, of course, the Mexican president, she talked shit. And then a couple of days later started backing away from it. And lo and behold, two big caravans that were on their way to the southern border were intercepted by the Mexican military and disbanded. And now we have this record fentanyl haul. You ready for this? 1.2 tons, of fentanyl. So that's 2,500 pounds. I mean, that's more than enough. That would not only kill the entire country of America, it is probably enough to kill the entire world. You do not need very much fentanyl to be, lethal, right?
Well, this kind of sounds like the same thing that Trump did with Obrador when they were talking about the illegals coming up, said, you either do this or I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden he changed his tune. And if I'm not mistaken, Claudia Sheinbaum is also a member of the World Economic Forum.
She is. That is absolutely correct. So good call on that, pointing that out. And for anybody who's not familiar with the WEF, World Economic Forum, that's Klaus Schwab. His father was a Nazi who had dual citizenship between Germany and Switzerland, committed all sorts of heinous crimes on behalf of the Nazi party, but he wasn't part of Nuremberg because he said, hey, I'm a Swiss citizen. You can't touch me. It left millions of dollars. Then Klaus Schwab, his son, started the World Economic Forum in 1971. In the 1990s, he came up with this Young Global Leaders program, which has been used to program leaders of countries and members of their legislatures. I mean, Dan Crenshaw out of Texas.
Well, the term that they use exactly is infiltrate. They train these people to infiltrate the governments and the corporations of the world.
Correct. And it's rampant, right? And we have to expose this stuff. So Justin Trudeau is one. Jacinda Ardern, who was the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who essentially committed, massive crimes against her populace. And the list just goes on and on and on. Like, they've been very successful at infiltrating, for sure. Good choice of words there, by the way.
Which is also interesting too, because where they supposedly broke up two more caravans that were coming up. Well, there's another one that's forming, and what they've been doing is they have actually been funneling these migrants. Pardon me, I'm going to use the correct terminology. They have been funneling these illegals over to Tapachula, Mexico, where they've been holed up there until they get the word to create those caravans, and then that's when they send them up.
Yeah, very interesting. By the way, I just caught your note here that we've got another mRNA spammer. So poof, gone, just like that. All right, so I'm moving on to the next one here. This is pretty bad, right? I mean, the FBI is corrupt 7 ways from Sunday. I'm not saying there aren't some good people there, but overall the organization is rotten to the core. And when you see things like that, this here, like, DEI, FBI agent convicted of robbing people during home raids. Well, one of them was a J6 defendant, but many of them were not. This is not just one time this happened. This guy did this multiple times. And what I'm saying essentially is this type of I'm above the law attitude and thievery is pervasive at the FBI. S2?
Yeah, well, a lot of people may not know this, but they're still out there arresting people that were at J6. They just arrested 2 more people yesterday.
They are hammered down doing that, trying to get as many people locked up as they can before Trump returns to office.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be enough. Sorry to tell you, you're running out of runway, guys.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. All right, the next one. Nancy Mace has introduced a bill to demand FEMA to redirect all funds from illegal immigrants to disaster relief fund. So while this may get the votes in the legislature, and it may not as well, but let's say it does, it wouldn't go anywhere until, Donald Trump comes into office. So it could be, nuked before such time. I don't know what to think of Nancy Mace, to be honest with you. I'm kind of lukewarm there. I get the distinct feeling sometimes that she's an actor. It's the political theater thing. So
Nancy's a beast. She's an absolute beast. And while I agree with taking the funds away from the illegals and putting it in the disaster relief fund, FEMA has been, that's all FEMA is. FEMA is a placeholder for a slush fund. That's all they are. They don't do anything with the money they have, or they do very little. They do just enough to make it look like they're doing something. But other than that, they're just a place to stash money. That's it.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right, moving on to the next one. And this is all US too, so take it away.
Officials tell Americans to use encryption because China hacked everything. Oh, yeah. There was a piece put out, looks like AT&T, they were busted into, I guess, I forget what it was, sometime last week or something. Every single one of pieces of information on every single one of AT&T's customers was hacked and stolen.
Again.
Yeah, again. So it's, yeah.
So advice for people. There's a reason that the CIA, NSA, FBI used the Signal messaging app. So it's open source. By virtue of being open source, it means that anybody can inspect the source code and see what it's doing. So if you were to build a backdoor into a piece of software, if it is closed source, it's really hard to find. You have to use packet sniffers to look for very specific things traveling across the network. When you add encryption on top of it, it makes it really, really difficult to pinpoint. Open source software, on the other hand, is akin to buying a car where the hood isn't welded shut. Proprietary software, hood's welded shut. You can't lift it up, put a breather on it, hop it up or anything like that. But open source code, you can. There are no backdoors in Signal. Tens of thousands of developers have put their eyes on it. The security patches that have been issued for Signal over the years have been things that are called like a man-in-the-middle attack, a buffer overflow attack, and I'm not going to get into all the technical details, but they were patched in the blink of an eye. So it right now, of all your choices, I saw somebody recently with regards to this story as to said, you should be using WhatsApp or Signal. Whoa. There is a complete government backdoor into WhatsApp. There's a complete government backdoor into everything that Zuckerberg owns, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp. That's the worst thing.
There used to not be a backdoor into Telegram if you were using peer-to-peer encryption, because this was something a lot of people didn't realize until much later on, is that there was no automatic encryption on Telegram to begin with. You had to actually initiate a conversation with people using that peer-to-peer encryption. So anybody that was on Telegram, they were getting your stuff. But here's the thing, the FBI, when J6 rolled around, the FBI went to Signal and tried to get records on users. Well, here's the problem with that. Signal doesn't keep any logs. They don't even keep usernames. So your stuff passes through their servers. It goes to where it's supposed to go, to its intended recipient, and everything is gone from there. So there's nothing for them. Signal told the FBI to go pound stand.
Yeah, and
now I will say there's a few other apps out there. They're not as robust as Signal. There's another one called Sessions, which I like really well. And then there was another one, I forget what it was. We were using that early on as well. But there were no back doors into it. Sessions basically is something that it's a web-based thing that you open up a session, you communicate with your contact through that. When you close that session, boom, everything's gone. There's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, Signal is by far and away the best choice as far as I'm concerned, keeping in mind my background comes from high tech, and it's your safest alternative, and it's what all the bad guys are using. We actually have somebody on the survival dispatch team that we've never announced this person's name and their roles, but was NSA for many years. And I'm not going to tell anybody who that individual is. And no, it's not Jeff MD, who's with the CIA. And this person still actively works in the intel world and has told me multiple times that Signal is the only app that the NSA has been unable to crack and put a back door into. And again, it is what it is. So we'll move on from there. If you want secure comms, though, you use Signal. So next one up here, this is going to be close to home for you, S2. So a Western North Carolina Hurricane Helene victim requested $200 in FEMA funds for a broken window, and she was denied. But instead, they offered her a 30-day stay at a faraway Marriott, which would have cost taxpayers $14,000. Let's have a listen to this.
In her windows. She thought since FEMA is helping out people who had damage from Helene in Mecklenburg County, maybe she could tap into some funds from that agency. FEMA said no, but FEMA did offer to put her and 3 others in a hotel, including the South Park Marriott, for up to a month. This little crack from Helene led to a situation that has 74-year-old Susan Lewis cracking up in disbelief.
I kept rereading it thinking, what am I missing here? This makes no sense.
The damaged window was in her Forest Ridge condo. Since FEMA is offering Mecklenburg County residents Helene assistance, she applied for funding to fix it. She says FEMA denied the claim and told her to submit it to her home insurance. She ended up having to pay $200 for the repair out of her own pocket because she has a $1,000 deductible.
I'm living on Social Security. I'm, 74-year-old woman. And, all these little extra expenses really add up.
While FEMA wouldn't fix the window, she says the agency offered her something else. A month stay for up to 4 people in a hotel. One of the hotels is the South Park Marriott. The average rate is nearly $200 a night. The hotel even told her she could get 2 rooms if she needed space for 4. Instead of paying $200 for the window, she says FEMA offered to spend $1,000 on a hotel she didn't need.
So if ever there was a prime example of why we need Elon and Vivek to gut the bureaucracy through the Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, that's a great example right there. Did you hear about this S2 being in North Carolina?
I have mixed thoughts about this situation, but what it really all boils down to is common sense. I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think Mecklenburg really was all that affected by Helene in the first place. So it was kind of like the deal with Elon, where he was giving away Starlink internet. What was it for that month or until January to victims?
Yeah.
While that was a good thing, it wasn't available to everybody in North Carolina. And like I said, I don't think Mecklenburg was hit quite that bad. I could be wrong, but like I said, I have my own thoughts about this. But what it all really boils down to is, if this were in a more affected area, I would have more stronger feelings about it. But $200 to fix a broken window versus $14,000 to stay in a hotel, that's just common sense, guys. I mean, really?
Well, yeah, and common sense is uncommon these days, especially in government alphabet agencies. So next one up here, report Hollywood Trump resistance broken, demoralized, won't mass organize, leave your pussy hats at home. So for several weeks now, you and I in particular have been discussing this S2, that people are just wore out and they're sick of fighting against Donald Trump, or they're sick of fighting against Joe Biden. And we started to notice that, I want to say in maybe like 3 weeks before the election, we started to notice a lot of people were essentially, reaching that black pill stage where they just had enough. Maybe we're going to get some respite this time around. You think?
Oh, I don't. They're going to do. It's not going to be the overt rioting in the streets that we're going to see in large scale. It's going to be more of the political maneuvering, which is going to be the infighting, rioting that's going to be going on within our legislature. That's what I think is coming, and it's going to be. They're basically going to try to block everything that Trump and his cabinet are going to try to do, starting off with the mass deportations. They're already trying to form coalitions to come together in some of these, I'm assuming, blue cities, where they're probably going to target mass deportations first. And I think they're going to get met with some situations where if you get in the way of ICE, you're going to jail this time. There will be no bail fund for you. So to those folks out there that may be listening to this and are thinking about going and organizing against this, you're going to jail this time. There's not going to be a slap on your wrist. So I would seriously advise against getting in the way.
Yeah, agreed. Well said. All right, so that is the end of chapter 2. We've got another quick message from CCW Safe. We will be right back. Necessity truly is the mother of all invention. And there's so many successes like yours where the product didn't exist, the company didn't exist, and you had to invent it yourself to fill that void.
What we provided, even at the time when we started CCW Safe, it was really better than what most officers were getting through their unions or departments. And you mentioned earlier about competitors. I fully believe that whatever, all of our competitors are going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. It's just we do it a little different. We're not an insurance company or a critical response team. We're really the only one in the industry that has a dedicated critical response team like we have. And that first 48 hours is so important to lock down. So we just do things differently.
All right. So we've got the president of CCW Safe coming on next week. We had one of the founders, Mike Darter, on previously. Since we're talking mass deportations, S2, I just want to throw this out there. I went back to them and I said, what would happen if somebody who's a military veteran, former law enforcement officer, or a licensed armed security guard, if they volunteered to help in the mass deportations and they were involved in a shooting, would CCW Safe cover them? And the response was pretty interesting. If the person was being compensated for assisting, then no, it would not cover them. But if somebody was to volunteer, like Doc Pete's guys have been doing for a while on the border, that they would be covered 100%. I just thought that was a kind of interesting angle there. And yes, I am fully behind CCW Safe. Anybody who hasn't heard the stories before, I'm not going to tell them again. Go watch another episode. But they're by far and away the best self-defense coverage option out there. So, all right, next one up here. CBS just confirmed that Biden plans on giving preemptive pardons to Dr. Fauci, Milley, Liz Cheney, Schiff, and top aides. No one is above the law. I have not been able to confirm that other than this tweet. S2, have you seen like 100% no ifs, ands, or buts confirmation that they are going to do this?
Yeah, if it's coming from the communist broadcast system, I wouldn't trust a word they say. They don't know shit.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen this evening, they are working on it. They're basically trying to find their angles and wordsmith what they're trying to do. But yeah, they're full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Here's another one, same account, but this one is accurate. So Queen Charlotte, this is in order, okay, from top left corner. Queen Charlotte, King Richard, Sir Isaac Newton, Viking warrior, Jarl Hakon. This is deliberate erasure. So, you know, Queen Charlotte was white. They replaced her with a black girl. King Richard, they replaced with a woman. Sir Isaac Newton, they replaced with a black woman. Actually, I think that's the Viking one. That's the Jarl Hakon one. This is the Newton one over here. They replaced Newton with a black actor. This is deliberate erasure. Probably the worst offender for this stuff for, you know,
Disney.
And then the second to that would be Netflix. Netflix is really guilty of this as well. So I don't know if you saw it or not, S2, not that it really matters one way or the other, but I'll ask you if you did see it. There was a video that got pretty good coverage, I want to say a couple months ago, and it was a black guy in Ireland yelling and screaming at the Irish, you know, my people built all of this. My people built everything, you know, and he was from Africa, and he went on this tirade of how Africans built everything in Ireland. I mean, you know, pardon my language for people who don't cuss, but shut the fuck up. You have got to be one dumb son of a bitch to believe revisionist history like that. And this here, this does it as well. And this is on purpose. Where it says this is deliberate erasure, it sure as hell is. And, you know, they're trying to erase our history. And one of the things that may sound petty, but I hope that Trump does, is put all the goddamn armed forces bases back to their dang names that they were before, not this Fort Liberty bullshit and everything else that goes with it.
This is hilarious. It really is. I kind of sit back and I laugh at it because, again, what these people don't understand is there's us guys around that are still of fairly young age that will be able to dispute all of this. We have the history books. We have all of this stuff. What do you think you're doing with this? Are you trying to create your own little subculture here? Go ahead. Play your little games. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's about it for sure. So moving on to the next one here. My message to GOP senators who don't want to confirm Trump's nominees. Trump took a bullet to the head and then dragged you into the majority. The American people sent a mandate and the American people are watching. Amen to that, Rep. Eric Burleson.
I love Burleson. He reintroduced Matt Gaetz's bill to get rid of the ATF.
Yeah, God bless him for that too. All right, breaking. Dade Phelan, who led the impeachment against Attorney General Ken Paxton, will no longer be Speaker of the House in Texas. This guy is a Republican, clearly light in the loafers, who set up the whole sham impeachment of Ken Paxton, which he won. These people are enemies of the state. These are anti-American enemies. And I'm glad to see him no longer the Speaker of the House, but I prefer to see him behind bars, to be quite frank. Disgusting.
I call him Peanut Head.
Yeah, something like that. So this one cracks me up. Donald Trump posted this first thing this morning on Truth. No troll happening there at all, right? He cracks me up.
Is that Elon? Is that Elon standing next to him?
Yeah, it was a picture taken during the first term when he went to the White House to visit. So check this one out here. So resident piece of shit Barack Obama was speaking at some democracy event, and he's had 38 concurrent viewers.
Can't believe NTD was actually covering that.
I mean, most popular president ever, huh? Oh, and by the way, I dug into the whole assassination of the CEO from United Healthcare, and we got him. We got her.
Yep, there she is.
We know who it is. Yep. He got killeried. So, you know, I'm happy to announce we've solved that problem.
They're going to find that guy dead in the river somewhere.
Wouldn't
shortly.
surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. All right, and the next one is a graphical representation, a meme representing our good friend Tom Holman. And when I say good friend, he is a good friend. We've worked with him. We've helped his organization. A family that is deported together stays together. One of the best comebacks I've ever heard when he was being interviewed, saying, well, you know, if you deport, how are you going to keep the families together? We'll just deport them all at the same time. All right. Moving on to the next one. I love Chad Prather. Guy's great. Bill Gates says a cow puts off more pollution than a car. Okay, Billy, I'll lock myself in a garage with a cow overnight. You lock yourself in a garage with a running car overnight. We'll meet for breakfast in the morning.
That's good. That's good.
He is so dang funny. I freaking love that guy. He's just awesome. Just awesome. All right, next one up here from Kelsey Grammer, Fraser Star. If someone has to die as a result of rape, then we should kill the rapist, not the unborn child. You know, I'm a little ambivalent when it comes to rape and incest on that, but the gist of what he's saying, I'm down with it. Kill the rapist. You're not going to cure rapists. I mean, my opinion on this subject has been the same forever and a day. I do not believe there are certain people that can be rehabbed, and that includes rapists, that includes pedophiles. There's nothing that you can do to fix them. So they should face the ultimate consequence, in my opinion. And to wrap it up here, we've got Alex Stein, God bless him, with his Spaceballs mega hat. And let's listen to this.
We're on the flight. Some people don't like the hat. This guy don't like the hat. But guys, I'm going to pip on a plan. You know, we love Donald Trump here. Future 47th. And don't forget, he's the 45th president. Let's go.
Alex Stein is absolutely freaking hilarious. Like, some of the stuff he's pulled off, S2, just makes me shake my head. Like, holy crap. Like, he's got into some situations where it looked like a mob was going to attack him and basically beat the crap out of him. But he's got a set of balls on him, I'll tell you that. So, all right. So that's the end of chapter 3 tonight. Tomorrow night, I won't be here. John Wheaton will be hosting tomorrow night, but we're at the homework section. So for those of you new to the podcast, I've been adamant since we started this. What are we here? 330 some odd episodes later, 331, that every podcast, you know, discusses something top of the news cycle. They editorialize whatever the thing is at the top of the news cycle. And then invariably there's comments from people saying, you know, nothing I do matters, that my vote doesn't matter. So I've been very adamant from day one that we give homework to our audience in light of whatever the thing is that we're discussing. So tonight's homework is pretty straightforward. Educate your circle by sharing truth tellers like Survival Dispatch News. We had Fox News on earlier today just because I wanted to see what they were talking about. And it's just as bad as MSNBC and CNN. It's just complete crap. It's all theater. So share stuff from people like us if you want to educate your circle or get them up to speed. Share the truth on your social media platforms. I mean, it took us a lot of work to get to 400,000 followers on YouTube. But if we get nuked off of YouTube tomorrow, so be it. We'll go down fighting. And we keep accruing strikes, and then 90 days later they go away because we speak the truth on particular subjects. I'm not purposely going to shoot us in the foot, and I ask our guests not to purposely shoot us in the foot. But if we get the next strike, when we get the next strike, oh well, so what? You know, you can't just placate these people and not take a stand. And then the third one would be to get involved in politics at your local level. Of course, S2 preaches that routinely. It'll have the biggest impact on your day-to-day life over anything else. S2, is there anything else that I left out with regards to homework action items for our audience?
Funny you would ask that. Yeah, there is. So if you support Donald Trump's cabinet picks, we need to make sure that those guys make it over the finish line. And one way that you can do that is to call the United States Capitol switchboard at 202-224-3121. And a switchboard operator will connect you directly with the Senate office that you asked for. If you don't know who your senator is, tell them what state you're from, and they can figure it out, and they'll send you to who you're supposed to go to. Again, that number is the United States Capitol switchboard at 202-224-3121. Call your senators and make sure that Donald Trump's cabinet picks get confirmed.
That was awesome, S2. Well done. Appreciate that one very, very much. Fantastic. All right, so we're at the conflicted question. And since Mike's here, that puts you've got the comm, you've got the helm.
Okay, here we go. If for those of you that haven't been here before, we take a question from one of the conflicted desks and we basically put out the scenario to you, and we want to hear we want to see your comments in the comment section below on what you would do. So here we go. Conflicted question. SEAL Team 6 penetrated Pakistani Air Force airspace, infiltrated a compound in Abbottabad, and killed Osama bin Laden. The body was never made public. 3 months later, the team members died in a helicopter crash. Is this a coincidence, or were the team members silenced?
Yeah, so since you posed the question, I'll give my answer first. It may not be the best answer, but it's all I got. Number one, the card was not worded properly when it says that 3 months later the team members died in a helicopter crash. Actually, there was a whole bunch of spec ops guys who were killed in a helicopter crash, which was very fishy, by the way. They were using a chopper that's never used for any type of special mission. So it's kind of fishy. They were told to stay in one position for 4 minutes, which set them up. But the verbiage is wrong. 3 months later, the team members died in a helicopter crash. Well, that insinuates that all of them did, and all of them did not die in that crash. Number one. Number two, Rob O'Neill is a partner with a friend of mine, Alan Beal, in his business, U.S. Armed Forces Brewing Company. They're based out of Virginia. I'm not a beer drinker, but everybody I know that does, who gets their beer, says it's really high quality, good stuff. So we've had Rob O'Neill on Survival Dispatch News a couple times, and here's the deal. When people start taking shots at you, you typically know that you're doing something right. So there's been some people who've come along and said that Rob O'Neill was not the guy who killed Osama bin Laden and blah, 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 blah. Rob O'Neill wrote a book on the raid on Osama bin Laden's home, and it took 1 year for the Department of Defense to sign off on what he was allowed to publish and what he was not allowed to publish. Rob's story has never changed right from the get-go as far as what his role was, how they found him in the room, and he shot him several times. It's never changed. Now, here's the next thing. If you look out there, you can find a CGI, computer-generated imagery account of what each person on the two teams did the entire time the raid was on. It was essentially gathered from helmet cams and body cams, as well as locators on each of the people, the way it was put together. That CGI rendering based on that data shows that Rob O'Neill killed Osama bin Laden. Okay. Now, I've never liked this, and I'm never going to like it. I personally don't believe that Obama was a legitimate president. I don't believe that I think his birth certificate's complete bullshit. It's a forgery. And there's too much evidence that he was a foreign student. Heck, when he was running for Senate, even in his campaign in Chicago, they were, talking it up how this immigrant, Barry Soetoro before that, but Obama at that point in time was, running to be part of the American dream. And then all of a sudden, when they made him a candidate for president, that all got downplayed and pushed away. The fact that him being a practicing Muslim, I don't have anything against Muslims. I have things against shitheads. I got nothing against Muslims in particular. But the fact that he's a practicing Muslim and that he ordered Osama bin Laden's body to be disposed of in the honorable Muslim manner of sliding him off a ship into the ocean. That guy was responsible for the deaths of all kinds of people around the world, especially Americans, and fuck him and fuck the Muslim, process of how you dispose of the body. The guy's a piece of shit terrorist. Whether or not GWAT was legitimate or not, the global war on terror, I don't care. When the topic at hand is Osama bin Laden, the guy was a piece of freaking shit. They should have strung him up by his nuts somewhere in public and let everybody see that we took that guy out, and we took him out hardcore. That's all I got to offer.
Okay. I can't follow up with much on that other than Hillary did it.
Actually, that's a great comeback. Well done. Good job. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. All right. So I haven't really been paying attention to how many people we've had on tonight, since it's just S2 and me. But if y'all could mash the like button before you leave, we'd appreciate it very much. And I'm going to repeat myself here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and God bless America.
There you go.
My name is Chris Heaven, and I'm the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I was a member of our national powerlifting team for many years and won many state, national, and world championships. Even though I'm in great shape for being 55 years old, I am not immune to father time. Most of us feel weaker and make more trips to the bathroom as we get older. U.S. Army research has led to a breakthrough for the #1 water for older Americans. It's not a special sports drink, but a mix with essential nutrients most hydration drinks lack. Keyword, hydration. These nutrients are proven to enhance muscle strength, reduce soreness, and improve bladder health. A Texas doctor leveraged this research and formulated a drink mix to help you stay strong. Click the link below for up to 44% off at nativehydrate.com/dispatch, plus free shipping and a free gift. This is one of the best deals I've seen for high quality BCAA drink mixes. Don't miss this deal.